So yesterday, a video by Infinite Cringe popped up on my feed with the title, "Goodbye and thanks for everything." I watched through the whole video and hearing her voice crack up during the last 30 seconds hit home harder than I was prepared for. I hope she gets some much needed rest from social media and Dragon's Dogma in general. For her to get treated like that after everything she has done for the community over the years makes me really angry. I learned later from this post on Reddit that she was getting harassed both on live streams and on Discord. And I have to wonder, what happened to the community that stood together for the game we loved? Are we that toxic? The amount of hate Dragon's Dogma 2 got after launch was absolutely crazy. It was an unreasonable amount of hate, and most of it came from within the community. We lost Nihil shortly after launch, and now we lost Cringe as well. Nihil took another path and decided to stop making videos very early. He wasn't happy with some of the mechanics and had some gripes with enemy aggression. So he just quietly left the scene. I think that was a wise choice for his own mental well-being. I personally was on the edge many times as well, since I didn't have the same excitement after seeing all the hatred from the community. It's probably also just me getting older, of course, and with a 5-year-old in house, I barely have time to play games or make videos for that matter. For me, it's just a hobby and a passion. Cringe, on the other hand, went all in. She stood strong and wanted to focus on doing YouTube full time. And honestly, I think her attempt was very successful looking at how well her videos was received, both before and after launch. I think that's where the problem started, and the growing community became gradually more toxic over time. Now, I don't know exactly how the community was attacking her and the extent of it, but that doesn't really matter. What matters is why. And that's what I want us to talk about in this video. How could we as a community end up here? And I want to show you guys what we're dealing with here. Even on her latest video, we have people that still bring negativity to the conversation, even though you clearly hear how it's affecting her mental health in this video. And I want to dissect this comment because they are basically parroting the same complaints I hear on a regular basis. Now I'm gonna share some of the toxic comments I get on almost every video later, but let's cover this first. The problem is the core gameplay is so bad. Now, when I think about the core gameplay in Dragon's Dogma 2, I would say that boils down to how good it feels to fight as a fighter, or warrior, or archer, and it feels pretty damn good. I was completely spellbound the first week after launch. If people are left with the impression that the core gameplay was bad, then I'm convinced they haven't even played the first game. And I think that many of the so-called veterans are people that in reality never played the game, but maybe only watched videos of the first game, and then felt entitled to voice their baseless opinions, especially on Steam. And sadly, it's always the vocal minority that gets all the attention. And I remember how the community on Reddit went from just 10,000 members for a long time to over 200k after the release of Dragon's Dogma 2. So the problem with how the game was perceived was a combination of players with minimal experience from the first game and a massive surge of mainstream players that aren't familiar with the Dragon's Dogma IP, maybe even comparing it to Elden Ring. Vermont is nowhere near as interesting as Grand Soren, trash-boring mobs. Again, if you have played the first game, you know that Grand Soren wasn't the best part of the game. On the contrary, it lacked enemy encounters. Wentworth is not perfect by any means, and I would love to see more boss encounters in this area, but just looking at the huge improvement in verticality, we already have a more exciting first-time experience in the sequel. I'll never forget launch day and how I got pursued by a couple of skeletons that made me run all the way back to the nearest ox cart. The sense of danger and excitement for what we would find around the next corner was absolutely there, even though we only had wolves, goblins, saurians and skeletons to fight in this area. The fights were still memorable. It was an epic fail of a sequel. Just to make this clear, the reason I take these points up for discussion in this video is not because a singular person have made a comment on the video. It's because I know from reading thousands of comments over the last months that these views over time have become truths in the community. Dragon's Dogma 2 was a success not only financially, but also just the fact that we even got a sequel. Yes, we might have complaints and wishes for the game, but that doesn't mean what we got wasn't great on its own. It's really strange how spoiled we have become in the Dragon's Dogma community. When you see other publishers like Activision and Ubisoft that just pump out the same low-effort games year after year. Capcom are on an all-time high, and we can't even wait for a DLC for Dragon's Dogma 2, that we know are in the works. We are most likely going to get DLC news next week on Tokyo Game Show, but it's too late for Infinite Cringe. The damage is already done. We as a community failed her, and I don't think we deserve getting her back at this point. Not until we change, and we need to change, myself included. I have accepted to become a voice for the community, and therefore I have accepted a huge amount of responsibility as well. And I have been the public punching bag for the community for a long time now. You would be surprised to see the amount of toxic comments I get on this channel. It's overwhelming at times, but I can take it. And I see a positive change in the community over the last weeks. We are slowly getting back together. The gap between veterans and new players are shrinking as more players get into the game. And I believe next week's announcements finally will silence the vocal toxic minority and let the rest of the community enjoy the game we waited for.